Hello, my name is Brandon McNeil, and this is my video for the benchmark cross-curricular remediation in ELA for the SPED 485 class. So let's kind of jump right into it, right? So as I get my notes loaded up here, the first thing we're going to talk about, right, is explaining the difference between differentiation, remediation, and intervention. So to kind of dive right into that, we'll start with differentiation. Basically what that's going to be, that's tailoring diverse instruction, all right, to all your students, so to speak. So tailoring that instruction to all your students, making sure you're meeting the diverse needs of all of them. So that's kind of what that applies to. Remediation, that's basically reteaching concepts that your students have not mastered yet. So for example, if you're in math or science or whatever, we'll just use math as an example, and you have a student that hasn't mastered or fully understood addition, you would kind of go back in there and kind of reteach the principles and the concepts of addition they have not mastered yet. And then the last one, intervention, that's going to be targeted practice addressing challenges, all right, that a specific student will have. So that's basically identifying a problem, all right, and then coming up with a solution for said problem, all right, for that student. So that kind of talks about intervention there. The next part we're going to talk about is basically discussing how teachers can use content areas such as, math, reading, science, social studies, things of that nature, and integrate literacy skills practice into learning. So kind of to get into that real quick here, what we'll do, as I guess, get my notes pulled up here. Okay, so the first one we'll kind of talk about, right, is math. An example for that one is the problem-solving approach. This strategy involves presenting students with a word problem or something of that nature that requires them to apply math concepts, basically to find a solution, right? And you're going to go through that problem-solving process. So that's math. Science, an example for science would be journaling. This is a strategy that can be used where students are asked basically to keep a journal of where they record all their observations of a specific thing going on in a topic, and then engaging the students at the end of it to basically have a full discussion about it. So that would be journaling. And then the last one we'll talk about is social studies. And for social studies, we'll do a text-based discussion, all right, that basically involves reading text related to a social studies topic, all right, and then engaging students in a discussion about it. So you're basically reading something, and you can have, as a teacher, you can decide if you want to read that individually or read it as a class. Either way, at the end of it, you're going to engage the students in a discussion, basically. So that kind of hits math, science, and social studies for that specific topic. All right, the next one, all right, we're going to discuss how to embed remediation strategies, all right, or different resources in the math, science, and social studies. So kind of diving into that one now, okay. We'll start with math again. All right, math, all right, would be basically the use of manipulatives. All right, manipulatives are basically physical objects that students can handle to understand the math concept. So an example of this would be like counters. I use those with my students personally in my room all the time when we do math. Counters, or you can kind of use whatever for those. There's small little disc things, or you can use blocks, things of that nature. So they basically can be helpful for students, and provide a kind of a tangible way to understand math concepts. The next one we'll talk about will be science, and that one will be talking about graphic organizers. They can be an effective way to basically, help students organize information up here. All right, if they see it organized in a certain way, with the use of like visual aids and things of that nature, so that can assist students there. Then the last one I'll talk about, all right, is social studies. All right, and that one will be we'll talk about an online support resource called ReadWorks. Basically, this provides a library of reading passages along with comprehension questions. There's so many different ones you can use. I use ReadWorks. I've also used iReady. I've also used Luma's Learning in my classroom. So really, all of these kind of do the same thing. They basically are helpful for students as it allows, that differentiation instruction, because basically to start off with, you take an assessment and then it places you, in the work that you should be, doing based off your assessment. So a couple more here. The next one we're going to discuss is how to build reading and writing assessments into content areas such as math, science, and social studies to support remediation strategies and build ELA skills. So for this one, all right, we'll kind of talk about a few things here. Reading and writing assessments, kind of integrating those. Math, I just hit on it. I would recommend doing, for an online resource, iReady. So iReady starts out with a diagnostic that the student takes, basically to get a flatline data of where they're at, and then it tailors the instruction to that. And within that, there's problem solving techniques it teaches you, and there's different writing, different reading assessments, and you can use that for really anything. In science, you're kind of asking your students to comprehend scientific texts and write reports. So that's kind of a way to integrate the reading and writing assessment in there. You can kind of tailor that how you want. I know for my students in science, what we do is we'll, have a discussion, figure out what's interesting, research that topic, and then I'll have my students write, a couple sentences or a paragraph or two about what, they found interesting. And then the last one, social studies, that one's kind of, self-explanatory there, I feel like, as far as how you can integrate reading and writing assessments. You can use that in the sense of essays and papers. Another example I use, we do CNN 10 in my classroom. So after we do CNN 10, we get a piece of paper out from our journals, and essentially we'll sit there and I'll have the students write, similar to what I just said about science, a couple of sentences about what they're interested in and what they found to be interesting. The last part we'll be talking about here is discussing how teachers can use central concept structures of discipline and tools, and organize their knowledge, and integrate, different things and skills and develop meaningful learning progressions for the students. And then basically for this one, first of all, you kind of have to have an understanding of the central concepts, the structures of discipline, and tools of inquiry. So having an understanding that teachers can use the central concepts, structures of discipline, and tools to basically of the content to create comprehensive and inclusive learning environments, which is what we're shooting for all our students. And then kind of organizing these into different units and project-based learning, so to speak. So that would include, applying knowledge and skills, to solve, real-world problems, for example. And then developing, these progressions. So that kind of ties into, differentiation instruction. Involves tailoring instruction to meet individual learning needs. Formative assessments. Those are a big one. Those basically give feedback that can be used to adjust certain things or make certain modifications for certain things. And then the IEP program, obviously for students in special education, it can be developed, and that's basically that legal side of things. So that kind of hits everything there. So I know I've kind of been rambling here for a little bit, but I hope you got something out of this video, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.